Hey, it's not a vortex. I have to be very quiet because it's quite late at night. But I wanted to talk about my latest piece of work. No War. It's a painting 60 by 80 centimeters, and it's to do with how I've been, I guess, artistically processing what's been going on in the conflict with Russia and Ukraine. The war. Let's call it what it is. A war. The war that's happening currently between Russia and Ukraine. Triggered by, war is complicated, but triggered by Russia invading Ukraine, for which there were many different reasons for why that happened. And I've tried to make this actual painting a painting that reflects both sides of the conflict, because I have deep roots in Russia. I know Russian very well. Так. So this is no war, because I want peace. I'm pretty sure, like any reasonable minded person, what I want is peace. I don't want a further escalation of the war. And I'm not saying this painting is going to stop that, I just want to reflect the reality of the situation in a symbolic, dreamlike manner, of course. So without further ado, I'll just show the painting and talk about the process of making it. So, probably, I'll show the whole thing in. So we've got Ukraine flag, that's obviously quite essential to the composition. This sort of mound of sorts, these ambiguous sort of floating, looking like they've got velocity sort of shells, basically. And then the third element, I suppose, is these characters in the windows. So we have these characters in the windows. We're looking out on a world that. So the thing is with these characters is there's light behind them, and there's light behind where it says "Niet," which in Russian means no. And then probably the most striking thing in terms of the first punch, visual punch, the sort of violent subtext is this, what could be blood or a tornado, but it's certainly visceral. Let's get a bit closer on that. So there's this sort of visual pool of blood that's emerging from the door, and it says "Niet." So it's quite a disturbing painting on many levels. I mean, how can it not be disturbing? War is a disturbing thing. It's the human consciousness splitting itself apart. It's the human soul just getting ravaged by destruction and chaos. So I've tried to represent that chaos in this piece of work. It'll probably form part of a larger part of work which is exploring this subject, because it is very close to my heart, like I said. I think next possibly I'm going to do a self-portrait. I was thinking, I've got a sketch I did a while ago, so whereas this is reflecting the external events in reality in a symbolic, dreamlike manner, I now want to think, well, how has this affected me personally? That'll be the next part, because it has. And in no way is it as big as a way that the Ukrainians or the Russians, either of these two people, have been affected. That's a given. I'm certainly not making this about myself. I mean, making this piece is primarily a piece of... I'm trying to do history painting, actually. So, and you can have your opinions of whether it fails or succeeds. But I just want to... There's always a time in an artist's life where you just want to make a mark and on an event in history, and say, this is the reality of it, and that's what I'm trying to do with this painting. It's been about a week in the development. I will now talk a bit more in detail about the actual technical process. There's actually 4 layers. We have an underpainting underneath. We have this part, which was also painted not long after. These missiles came in quite late after the sort of grassy area. There's a lot of dry brush technique that we used. Also scratching, it's graffiti, which I love as a technique. Trying to use contrast of, you've got this very bright flag, so it sort of stands out immediately. It's sort of the symbol of hope in the painting. It's the only real bright part of it, you know. The rest of it's quite grim and brown toned and dull, I guess. So I was trying to get that light contrast in there as well. So yeah, like in terms of techniques, I'm quite textural and sculptural with paint, so I use I'm a bit of a messy painter actually in a lot of ways. I'm quite savage. Believe it or not, I'm actually quite savage when I paint. I tend to, well, I'm only talking quietly because it's late. But yeah, I tend to be quite, I'm not the most savage painter actually. Let me just correct that. Well, it varies actually. Sometimes I can be quite gentle. Sometimes I can be very savage. Like I am a painter who was smashed his own paintings up in anger, or I've done all that stuff. But the subject deserves respect, so I've not done that this time. I've had like sort of inclinations and feelings in the back of my head to do that, but I wouldn't. It's too important for the subject of meaning itself. Yeah, enjoy. Take from it what you want. Animal Vortex, like and subscribe for more art, poetry, writing, all sorts of things, creativity in general, and philosophy and thinking. That's basically the function of this channel. If you're an artist, then also, feel free to leave your thoughts. Constructive criticism is welcomed. And that's all really.